What is up, guys? Welcome to my review for Arrow Season 8, Episode 3, titled Leap of Faith. This is the third episode in a row to not only be very, very good, but also it's the third episode in a row to have just the craziest cliffhanger, or at least ending, ever. In this video, I'll review the entirety of the episode. First, I'll talk about the Nanda Parbat storyline with Oliver, Thea, Talia, and Athena and the Thanatos Guild, then the John/Lila storyline, then the flash forwards, and in the end, I'll talk about the ending, which was insane. So with that in mind, let's begin with the Nanda Parbat storyline. So the last episode ended, or the last scene with Oliver at least, was with him deciding to go to Nanda Parbat to get information on Marno Vu. The episode begins with Oliver at Nanda Parbat. He meets up with Thea, but they never, he's there by himself. They explain why Diggle's not there, but they never explain why Laurel's not there. I mean, he mentions Laurel, but I don't think he ever mentions why Laurel wasn't with him and where she was at this point. And I know why Katie Cassidy wasn't in the episode very much, or at all, because she directed the episode, and she did a very good job at that, but they never really explained why Laurel wasn't around, and I wish they did that. Anyway, the episode begins with Oliver fighting Thea, as Thea just attacks him, not knowing who he is. It's a good fight scene. It doesn't last very long, but you know, it's fine. But when Thea realizes it's Oliver and vice versa, they sit down at a campfire. In this scene with Oliver and Thea sitting at a fire in a foresty-looking area at night, that's an homage to The Return, an episode from Season 3, as this episode is a big homage to Season 3. Now, I've said this before, I don't understand why Season 3 got 2 episodes, other than what it brings to the table narratively, like Hong Kong and that area, as well as Katana, but also here with the League of Assassins. But there's that scene, there's Oliver and Thea climbing up the mountain, obviously an homage to when Oliver did the same in a much colder environment, but in the same area in Season 3 as well. But what we didn't know is that this episode actually has a whole storyline that's an homage to Season 2, as they never told us that there's going to be any homage to Season 2 in this episode, but there is, and that's the storyline with John and Lila, an homage to the Suicide Squad episode in Season 2, which I'll get to later in this video. But this scene with Oliver telling Thea about the crisis and about how he's going to die went very differently than what I expected. I certainly expected Thea to have a bigger reaction. Her reaction here is that what Oliver is telling her, that Oliver is going to die, is not necessarily true, and that, like in Season 3, which is a part of the homage, Oliver cheated death, and he can do it again. However, I don't know, it's not worse necessarily, it's just different, but I wanted or expected a more emotional reaction from Thea, learning that her brother is going to die in like a couple months, and we didn't really get that in this scene or in this episode, but that's fine, because it's an expectation that wasn't necessarily something that we were told was going to happen or something to expect, and Thea's reaction is still in line with the character or in line with what she's been told. It's just different from what I expected or I guess wanted. So then Oliver and Thea decide to go after Talia Al Ghul. They find her, and there's a misunderstanding, just like with Oliver and Thea, where they end up going up against her followers. It's an okay fight scene. Like I said, it's really short and a misunderstanding. But there's a problem here, which I might have missed it, I don't know, but I don't think they ever explained where her followers went, because she went with Oliver and Thea. Maybe she wanted to go alone or something, but I'm sure her followers probably could have helped out, probably would have helped out when she was captured by the Thanatos Guild or going up against the Thanatos Guild, but they just disappeared. So I don't think they ever explained that. It's a nitpick really, but it's something I don't think they ever explained. But then Oliver asks Talia about Marno Vu. She's never heard that name, but she thinks that there might be some information in the catacombs in Nanda Parbat, so they go there. But then Oliver, Talia, and Thea find the catacombs pretty quickly, where there's only a scroll left. Thea manages to speak Arabic, and also earlier she explains why Nissa Al Ghul isn't around. A lot happened to her and the whole team, the Nanda Parbat or the Lazarus Quest team over the course of the years. Also, they managed to already destroy all the Lazarus pits, but that could have been a really cool either spin-off show or maybe more realistically a tie-in comic focusing on those characters and showing what happened. But the fact that Thea now speaks Arabic means that she knows the same amount of languages as Oliver. She knows English, Spanish, and Arabic, while Oliver knows English, Russian, and Mandarin. So I think that's a cool thing they added in this episode. But then Athena and the Thanatos Guild show up, and they ask for the map that they got from the scroll, and then Talia gives it to them, but to avoid conflict. But there's a fight. Anyway, the fight is fine. Again, it's like the third fight in a row that's really, really short, and there isn't really enough time to get like invested in the fight or something, but it's an okay fight. As it turns out, Talia memorizes the map, and she, along with Oliver, go and follow it, while Oliver tells Thea to stay behind. Now, Oliver telling Thea to stay behind fits what they show her later, which is Oliver's being very overprotective, but at the same time, it feels like they literally just did that so that Talia can knock Oliver out without Thea having anything to say about it or having anything to do about it, so that Talia can get captured later, and I feel like it was a little bit manufactured, but at the same time, I guess it works, and again, a little bit of a nitpick, but then Oliver and Talia do follow the map. They get caught by a booby trap, which is a pretty cool scene. This whole episode has a very, as Thea mentions later, Indiana Jones vibe about it, where they're like searching through catacombs and they're going into booby traps, like here with all these arrows. And I think it's a really interesting. It feels like just an adventure where they're trying to get an item or something, and I think it works. So anyway, Talia knocks Oliver out so she can get to the destination and get a Ra's al Ghul's sword before anybody else. And then Thea finds Oliver. He wakes up and, memorizing where he needs to go, decides that with Thea they're going to climb up the mountain that Oliver climbed up in season 3. It's noticeably less snowy this time because it's October instead of December, but it's still really, really cool. It's a great homage, and we get a scene with Oliver and Thea talking in the middle of the mountain where they're basically looking at a sunset. And Thea asks Oliver why he's being so overprotective, and he mentions it's because he left his family behind and he needs his family to stay around. It's definitely pretty emotional. It uses Oliver's upcoming death in a very emotional and very good way, and it's a very good scene between Oliver and Thea, and also visually it's pretty great. So anyway, they get to the top, and it seemed like it only took them like a couple minutes. Like the way it was portrayed with Oliver climbing up the mountain in season 3, it's like it took him hours, maybe even like a whole day or like half a day or something, and by the end he was exhausted. Here, it seems like it took them a couple minutes, and they didn't even break a sweat. Anyway, it turns out Talia got captured by the Thanatos Guild, and Thea, leading them, is forcing now Oliver, Talia, and Thea to go through the catacombs. And this is the climax of the storyline. Talia manages to escape and gets to Ra's al Ghul's sword first, and Thea follows her. They get into a fight, which Thea does win, and it's a pretty good fight. Now, while that's happening, Oliver is warding off the Thanatos Guild, and he's going up against Athena, but there's this one shot of this flamethrower, this big blast of fire in the background, which took out a couple members of the guild. It goes off behind Oliver while he's looking towards, not at, but towards the camera. It's really cool visually, and it's a pretty badass shot, but overall I thought this was a pretty great climax to the episode. So then Oliver actually gets the information that he came for after Thea defeats Talia and she yields, and Thea gets the sword of Ra's al Ghul, and then Oliver defeats Athena. Oliver actually gets that information. He gets a scroll that says that the Monitor actually told the original Ra's al Ghul, whose name was Al-Fatih, to create the League of Assassins or he'll destroy everything. The picture kind of looks more like the Anti-Monitor, honestly. However, I think that narratively it kind of does make more sense that it would be the Monitor. I don't think the Monitor is a bad person. I think that it's been said that he's morally ambiguous. He's doing everything he's doing so that the multiverse will survive, but he's doing things very questionably, and creating the League of Assassins, all those like thousands of years ago, or however long it was ago, hundreds of years, whatever, it was all because of the crisis. And if it was the Anti-Monitor, I don't know. I mean, the picture does look more like the Anti-Monitor, but I don't understand why he would create the League of Assassins if he's just going to destroy the universe and the rest of the multiverse later. But if it was the Monitor, I think I know a reason for why he created the League of Assassins, and I'll get to it in another theory video, maybe instead of the trailer breakdown for the next video or for the next episode, or maybe in that video, because I think it's very interesting and it warrants a couple minutes to actually talk about, maybe even an entire video. Anyway, after that happens, Thea and Talia create the League of Heroes, which is eerily similar to the Justice League, and if Thea Queen, aka Speedy, and Talia Al Ghul form the Justice League, that's a really weird founding members of the Justice League, but this is not the Justice League, it's the League of Heroes, which is not something from the comics. It seems like it's the League of Assassins who don't kill or something like that, but it's interesting. I hope these characters, along with the League of Heroes, appear in the Crisis. Then Oliver and Thea say goodbye, which is a great, slightly emotional scene. So anyway, then there's the John/Lila storyline. This episode is a huge homage to a Season 2 episode, Suicide Squad, where Lila, John, Bronze Tiger, and Deadshot all go on a mission to stop Golem Kadir and destroy his, neutralizing agent or something. Anyway, this episode is an homage to that, even having his son as the villain, and also involving a Bronze Tiger. It's a little disappointing that Bronze Tiger didn't actually appear in this episode. I really hope he appears sometime in this season, as the last season he was awesome. It kind of set up for him to be either a member of Team Arrow or helping out Team Arrow from time to time, especially with the flash forward setting up John Diggle actually adopting his son. I really hope Bronze Tiger appears later in this season, and I think he will in an episode where he and his wife, or whoever she is to him, Sandra Hawk, probably die, and then Diggle adopts their son. It's really weird to think that Sandra Hawk in this universe is the mother of Connor Hawk, and also Connor Hawk is the son of Ben Turner. While in the comics, it's the same thing, except for instead of Ben Turner, it's Oliver Queen. It's really weird to think about that, but anyway, that part of the storyline is pretty good, except for Bronze Tiger not being there, which is not the only either frustrating or disappointing part of this storyline. The other one does involve the Crisis. While this storyline is pretty good, it's a great homage, it's got a lot of great moments, and also seeing Lila and Diggle is always great, especially now. I couldn't help but be at least a little bit frustrated. The showrunner said that we'd be learning more about Lila's time, or Lila's working with the Monitor. We'd be learning if she has been working with him this entire time or not in this episode. As it turns out, we actually saw a scene between them in episode 2, but I definitely expected for Lila to tell John about the fact that she's been working with the Monitor this entire time in this specific episode, as not only could have been really cool, but also the showrunner actually told us we'd be learning whether or not Lila has been working with him the entire time, or whether or not it's been more recent or something, so that was really frustrating. And by the end, that never happened. Even still, this is a very, very good storyline with a lot of great moments, and it's definitely not the weakest part of the episode, as always, that is the flash forwards. However, just like the last episode, it's the second episode in a row where the flash forwards were at least a little bit interesting, especially the ending. So the flash forwards are fine. I mean, they are a little bit better than usually, especially because of the final scene, but overall, I mean, it's fine. That is until that actual final scene where future Team Arrow goes up against the Deathstrokes and Mia goes up against JJ. JJ's about to kill Mia until Zoe tackles him, and then she gets stabbed in the back. Now, this is a death scene that I think it made Mia kind of likable, as her reaction and the acting from the actress was definitely a lot better than it typically is, and in this episode, she was a lot more likable. Hopefully, this means that the show, Green Arrow and the Canaries, could be better than I would expect, because up until this point, she has not been a very good character. However, Zoe's death had two major problems. One, it was spoiled in the synopsis for the next episode, which I guess is my own fault for reading the synopsis, but the synopsis did say that there would be a death, or really hinted at there would be a death in Future Team Arrow, and the fact that the only member of Future Team Arrow who isn't a series regular is Zoe Ramirez, just putting two and two together, it's obviously going to be Zoe Ramirez. Not only that, but in the actual moment, it was very forced, where she pushed JJ, and then she stood there with her back to him, basically begging for him to stab her, and he did, and then it was expected even in the moment. It wasn't exactly emotional because I don't really care about the character, and overall it was not a good death scene, but then there's the ending. So the ending was insane. It's crazy how 3 episodes in a row, with episode 1 where the Earth 2 was destroyed, episode 2 revealing that Lila has been working with the Monitor, and now episode 3 all had insane endings, and I feel like literally every episode will do the same thing, and I think they're doing a great job with that. But anyway, in this moment, after Zoe is killed, and while Connor is beating the crap out of JJ, they're all just sent to the present day. JJ, William, Mia, and Connor, along with the Deathstrokes, are all sent to the present day in the bunker, along with Dinah, Renee, Diggle, and Oliver Queen. This was an insane moment, really crazy, fairly unexpected, or at least it would have been had I not been spoiled by a commenter. Thank you very much. The commenter said that there would be no more flash forwards, and hearing about the crazy twist, I did put 2 and 2 together, and also the synopsis saying that there's a new Deathstroke in the present day. Anyway, this was still an insane moment. I don't know how this would affect the rest of the season, because now it's not going to be completely separate, one part of the episode great with Oliver, and then in the other part of the episode episode. It's a part that I can kind of tune out, as now they're being fused together. I am interested now to see William and Mia interact with Oliver, and Connor to interact with Diggle, and the characters to interact with younger versions of the people that they either know or heard about. That could be interesting, but I'm wondering if this will be for the betterment of the actual season, because all these characters are now going to be a part of the main present-day storyline. This scene also brings up the question, which is, are the flash forwards a part of the current timeline? And I would think not. It's too dark, it's too dreary, especially for this hero who's been working to save his city for 8 years, sacrifices his life to save the multiverse, and then his city is just, it's worse than ever. And I don't like that concept, and it seems like maybe the writers are going away from that, as Mia and William and Connor going back to the present day changes a lot already. Specifically, Dinah and Renee, this is the change we can know off the bat. Already, Dinah and Renee know about Mia, which they didn't know in the flash forwards. That is already a change to the timeline, so that means that the timeline that these characters are from are erased. Either they're the timeline from before Nora was erased from existence and before Thawne and Team Flash changed the timeline then, or they're from some crazy different alternate timeline, or even more possible than that is the Monitor just brought them back from the future and he just changed the timeline. Either way, I'm glad, and this is something that I'm really happy about. The flash forwards are not the actual current future, they're just an alternate timeline, an alternate future, like Star City 2046 we saw in Legends of Tomorrow. And the future timeline, or the future of this timeline, I hope, is a lot more lighthearted, and I think a lot more successful in terms of Oliver's crusade. So anyway, this episode was another really, really good one. The main storyline was great. Seeing Talia and especially Thea return was also pretty awesome. And the main storyline overall, while I didn't love all of it, I did like a lot of it and most of it. The John/Lyle storyline was pretty good and a great homage to Season 2, if not a little bit frustrating, while the flash forwards were definitely better than typically, and the ending was insane. In the end, this episode I thought was the worst episode of the season so far, and I'll give it a 9.2 out of 10. Let me know what you thought about the episode in the comments down below, and if you liked this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.